Hey, it's Joe Crump. Another question. How do I get started with no money down on my with no money down of my own? I watched your video and how your students have done this kind of work, and I didn't realize that their bank account, and they didn't realize that their bank account was growing. I want to have this freedom. I'm tired of this 8 to 5 from my job. I'd like to start your program and could use some mentoring as a real estate investor. David. Well, I'd be happy to talk to you about the mentor program. Just give me a call. Go to the websites to check it out before you come. zerodowninvesting.com and joecrump.com/partner. Both of those are about the mentor program. And then, of course, most of my mentor students also use the automarketer push button, automarketer.com. If you have the resources to do it and you still want to do it, give me a call, and I'll be happy to go over some things with you. I like to make sure that that you understand how the program works, and that we're a good fit, together. That we can get along, and that I can teach you. So there are a few things I like to go over to make sure that that's the case. As far as getting started doing no money down deals, you don't need me to do that. It's easier if you have me, because I can keep you focused and I can show you what to do first and what to do second. But I've got some good materials out there that, for $3 on Amazon, get Automated Real Estate Investing, get that book, and it'll teach you the same technique that I'm teaching my mentor students. If you're using the automarketer, use the audios that I have in there that'll teach you the process of the for rent method. Start with the for rent method, because essentially all it is you're getting someone to say, yes, I'll do a lease with an option to buy, and give you the right to buy it with the lease with an option to buy, and the right to assign your right to someone else for a fee, for a lease option fee. And so you go out there, you find somebody else, you raise the price, they give you a down payment for the property, you get the down payment, they also give you the first month rent, you give that to the seller, you're in and out of the deal, you're done, you made a chunk of cash, maybe $5,000 on average, and the seller has a buyer for their property at full price without paying any fees, because all the fees are paid by the seller or by the buyer to me. I don't charge the seller anything. So it makes it easy for them to do it. It's no money out of my pocket. I have no risk. I have no credit on the line. It's a very simple deal. The worst thing that can happen is I get embarrassed that I don't get it sold. And I only don't get it sold because I didn't set up the deal right in the first place. Maybe somebody told me, well, I don't want a sign in the yard, and I didn't know how to deal with that. You learn how to deal with that. Or they say, well, I want $1,200 for the monthly payment, even though market rent is only $1,000. Well, it's not going to sell that way, and I didn't explain it to them properly. If I'm the investor, if I explain it to them properly and get them on board, then I can get it sold, because I can't sell it for $1,200, but I can sell it for $1,000, because that's where the market rent is, market rent or below, and it'll get sold. So those are the two main things that will determine whether or not I can sell their property. And I know what the seller is trying to do, because I've been listening to them, I've been talking to them, and I've been making that happen. So it's not hard to do these zero down deals. There's also a zero down structure hierarchy that I've created that includes subject to, multi-mortgage, land contract or contract for deed, lease options, and assignable cash deals or wholesaling. That is the structures that encompasses just about every technique out there for zero down strategies. So you don't ever have to deal with a bank. You don't ever have to deal with credit. Nobody ever checks your credit. Nobody ever checks your income when you do these types of deals. It just doesn't matter. You don't have to be embarrassed if you have bad credit. When I started doing this, I did it because I had bad credit. I did it because in 1991, when everything crashed for me, it took me into a bankruptcy, which trashed my credit for a decade. And I had to figure out another way to do this. So within 6 months or a year, I was up to doing zero down deals again, because I started to understand, how can I do this without talking to a bank? Because before then, when I built my first business, it was all about leverage. It was all about banks. It was all about loans. It was all about a little bit of money down. How little money down can I do, rather than no money down? So the return on my investment when I do no money down is infinite. It's a beautiful thing. And when you talk to the average person out there, they don't even believe it's possible. But after I've done, I've done hundreds of them myself. I've got students that we've done thousands of them. It's to me, it's just a mundane, this is how we do it, here's how we get going. And then when it finally happens for somebody for the first time, I just see they just light up and say, I didn't believe it. I couldn't believe it was possible. Just amazing, just amazing. I'm so excited. And that's a lot of fun. I really enjoy seeing that, and I enjoy seeing people go through this understanding in this process. And I think that's why I want to be a mentor. That's why I still want to teach this stuff. And this is the last video in this series, so I thought I would just throw out my little pitch about the mentor program. It's not right for everybody, and it's expensive. It's like going to college for a semester. It's not like going to be a brain surgeon. You don't have to go for 10 years. And when you're done with it, you can make as much as a brain surgeon without having to go to that extent. I have a lot of students who are making more money than brain surgeons, but without that level of education. So it doesn't take long to get to the point where you want to go, but it does take a chunk of money up front. It does take a commitment. You do have to commit your time to it. I tell everybody when they get into my program, when you talk to me, the things I'm going to say to you, and I'll say it to you. Everybody I talk to, I say the same thing, because I think it's important for you to hear it from me directly. That this is not a get-rich-quick scheme. This is a business building program, and if you treat it like a business, I guarantee you'll make money. If you don't do the work, if you don't follow through, I also guarantee you won't make a dime. I also ask you to allow yourself the time to succeed. Give yourself 3 or 4 months before you can expect to make any money at all. I've got people who make money in a week, 2 weeks, but they're the exception, not the rule. It is possible to go out there and make money right away, but most of the time it takes skill. And what I find is if people think it's going to take a week, then they get discouraged and they give up before they've actually learned how to do it. And they can't do it if they don't learn how to do it unless they just get lucky. I also, so give yourself 3 or 4 months before you can expect to make money. Also, I ask everyone that gets into my program that they commit 8 to 10 hours per week, focused on the things that I teach, doing the exact stuff that I teach. I'm going to give you a ton of information, and it's going to be like drinking from a fire hose. There's so much stuff, and it can get overwhelming. But all you have to do is, if you only have 8 to 10 hours a week, is to focus in on just 1 or 2 techniques. Do this, and I'm going to tell you, here's what you have to do. This, this, and this. That's all you have to do this week. I don't want you to put all this other stuff that I'm giving you aside. You don't have to know this stuff in order to make money. I want you to know this stuff because that's what a master's education in real estate's all about. I want you to have these details, but it's not necessary to make money. It's not necessary to do this stuff ethically and to build a business. You'll do that stuff gradually over time. So so go through this process and do it that way. So that's really all that I tell everybody before they get in. The only other thing I say is that there's no whiners or complainers allowed in my program. Bring a positive attitude. That negative energy is no good for me. It doesn't help my quality of life at all. I'm doing this because I enjoy it and I have a good quality of life. And everybody else that is in this program, they promise me that they're going to bring positive energy as well. That doesn't mean that you have to be Pollyanna. I don't expect you to be, sunshine and, everything all the time. I expect you to have questions. I expect you to have challenges in this process. That's what we're here to solve. We get paid for solving problems. We get paid for helping other people. The more people we help, the more money we make. Bring an ethical, honorable attitude to this program. Go into this not trying to screw some old lady out of her inheritance for her kids, for her equity, but going in there to try to help solve a problem. The seller that can't sell his property, the buyer that can't buy a property, that wants a property for his home. That's the difference between, hammering somebody on their price and trying to get a deal that makes sense for everybody so we can all profit from the deal. Because we can, and you can structure deals that make sense like that. All right, I'm getting on my soapbox a little bit, so I'll get off of that. But I invite you to, if you're interested and you have the resources to get in the mentor program, then join us. Give me a call. My phone number is probably on this page of this video that you're looking at. Also, look at the other things that I've got. If you don't have any money, don't give up. You don't have to go through the mentor program to make money. I've had so many people that have been successful just by reading my book or just by using the information that we have on the blog. The blog has a ton of stuff. There's almost 500 videos on this blog, and most of it's information on how to do things, how to put things together. Yes, it's going to take longer for you to do it this way, for you to index it to try to figure out what works and what doesn't. You're still going to have to go through some hard knocks if you don't have my help. But if you can afford it and you can get my help, I can focus you in on what's important, and I can help you, and I can answer your questions, which is how I work with everybody. The times that we'll be talking, by the way, on this program is on our conference calls. We do them every 2 weeks, and I answer all the questions, and that's the time that I talk with my mentor students, that and during the buying events where we get to actually meet. I take emails from everyone, so you can send me from everyone that's in the mentor program. You can send me emails, and I'm pretty good 90% of the time getting back within 24 business hours. So I don't work on weekends. Typically, I don't work on holidays, but I will respond usually in a timely manner, unless I tell you I'm going to be out of town during a particular time, because I do have some other things in my life that I'm working on as well, other businesses. I'm making a movie, doing some other fun stuff. Go check out 20questionsfilm.com. That's our new film blog site if you're interested in movie making. But anyway, get involved in the program if you're interested, and I'd love to work with you and help you build a business and maybe fulfill a dream that you've probably had for a very long time. All right, hope that helps. Good luck. Take care.